Welcome back, subscribers, and welcome new viewers. I have been asked to complete this number 3 Pluto viewer request that I put up yesterday. So this will be the completion, the finishing of the reading for all of you interested. Continued number 3, Pluto in Scorpio, or the 8th house. Another course of action, and the one to be recommended over the above, is to choose mates who are willing to evolve and change as the need presents itself. The 8th house Pluto individual should be willing to experience life as an open-ended proposition and to be willing to risk that which constitutes security. Those following this course of action can learn how to communicate or release that which is promoting problems, stagnation, blocks, or temptations. They can learn how to do this for themselves, and thus to do this within a relationship. This release promotes individual growth and the growth of the relationship. There are no more secrets. They can learn that some of the demons are actually angels that have assumed the form of demons because of their own fears. That some of the impulses and desires are legitimate and relevant to the individual's growth, whatever those desires are and wherever they may lead. In this kind of relationship, the idea or phenomenon of soulmates could be realized. However, strictly speaking, soulmates must have a spiritual foundation upon which their relationship is based, and to which all that is inwardly and outwardly experienced is referred. The essence of a soulmate relationship is to promote the spiritual development of each person because of the relationship. The confrontations and growth pains occur, of course, yet they promote growth rather than degenerating into recriminations or vindictive, cruel, or mean behavior toward one another. Until this third course of action is adopted by the 8th house Pluto person, the other 2 courses of action will promote negativity. And again, the other 2 courses of action, for those of you that haven't listened to the first part, it's in the first part. But one or both partners may feel that they have invested themselves totally in the other. When unexpected problems or confrontations arise or one person leaves, negative behavior can result. Remember that these individuals can have unconscious memories of this kind of activity from other lives together, which conditions their behavior in this life. And again, for those of you who don't believe in reincarnation, that's all right. There is a scientific proof that mothers in their 3rd trimester of pregnancy download trillions of bits of information into the baby. So these types of things can be transferred from one generation to the next. And of course, if they've never been taken care of, then that could be why you Scorpio Plutos have Scorpio Pluto or Pluto in the 8th house. For some of you, you'd have to check back and look at your parents' natal wheels, your grandparents' natal wheels, as far back as you'd like to go. But it's pretty amazing. And if any of you want to know more about what I just said about that scientific proof, you can look up Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he's the one, that's where I got that scientific information from. Every intimate relationship that an 8th house person, a Pluto individual has with another will be based on a prior life connection or a memory that was passed down in your generational lineage. This will apply to all evolutionary conditions and all possible karmic patterns and requirements. Many 8th house Pluto individuals have had a series of prior lives in which the rug has been pulled out from under their feet. And this is absolutely true. With that sentence right there, I have a South Node in Scorpio in the 8th house, and that sentence right there is in my South Node. So absolutely, and I have looked back into my lineage, back to as far as I could go, and it has been passed down from the females in my family and the females on both sides, my mom's and dad's side. So my dad's side, I received the Scorpio South Node, and my mom's side, I received the 8th house South Node. And so because I didn't know any better, I hadn't looked into this, and I didn't know this when I had my child, well, we pass those things on until we have completed and worked through our South Nodes properly. So this is another reason why it's so essential to become consciously aware of all of this. Again, that was hidden from us, all of us. This is why I'm doing my channel. It is imperative, not just for us individually, but for us as an ancestral familial, to end these familial patterns that have been passed down for a long, long time. Okay, for some of us, not all of us. This has occurred either through karmic retribution or because they have overly invested themselves and become too dependent upon a situation or person in their lives. The degree of overinvestment or dependency will determine the degree of emotional shock associated with the experience. If the individual has a karmic signature wherein they have used their sexuality to get what they needed or to control others, then the individual may experience this type of retribution in their own lives. The worst cases might include the possibility of being raped, for example. So there's a whole nother reason for rape happening to the female. And so there again, you check into your own self, your own natal wheel. And that takes care of, that enables each one of us to start taking responsibility for ourselves and to stop that blaming another for what has happened to us and what we have done to others. There is no blame with us either. You don't blame yourself and you don't blame another. No, what's the word I want? No judgment. No judgment. This is what astrology does, is it levels the playing field for each one of us to stop judging each other and our own selves. The worst cases might include the possibility of being raped. For example, the prior life memory of having the rug pulled out from under their feet is responsible for most of these people coming into this life with a conditioned defensiveness and a conditioned suspicion as to the motives and intentions of those who desire to be involved with them in some way. This dynamic creates emotional retention or withholding for fear of having the rug pulled out once again. It can take an abnormally long time for the individual to really trust another or a situation in which they are involved in as a result. The polarity point is the second house, or Taurus. The evolutionary intent is one of utter self-reliance and learning how to identify one's own internal values and resources in order to sustain oneself. That's my North Node, Taurus in the second house. And for all of you, that's the point. If you have Scorpio, Pluto, or Pluto in the 8th house, same thing. On this basis, these individuals are learning how to minimize compulsive dependence on anything outside of themselves. They are learning how to look within and use themselves as the symbol for their own personal transformation. The evolutionary intent demands that they progressively learn to simplify their lives. Do make it more basic. I think it's supposed to say to make it more basic. That was a typing error. Thus, it is important for these individuals to effect relative isolation from the impact of the external environment, to look within and examine the whys and wherefores of their own existence. And I want to include, he just says in general, that generally, and I'm going to say specifically, you look into your natal wheel and absolutely, like it said in the first part of this Pluto and Scorpio, or the 8th house, it has everything to do with your South Node and where your South Node lands in the house placement and the zodiac sign. In this way, they will learn how to identify who they essentially are versus the pieces of themselves that are actually other people with whom they have been karmically linked through relationships in this or other lives. This karmic linkage is associated with the osmosis effect of sexuality and the uniting of themselves with others on an emotional, intellectual, and spiritual level. In this way, they can discover the core of themselves and will learn how to sustain themselves by identifying their own personal resources. By so doing, they will become emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, physically, and sexually self-sufficient. They will learn how to participate in a committed, growth-oriented relationship in a non-dependent, non-compulsive way. Absolutely. How beautiful. In this way, they will naturally attract another who is self-sustaining by nature. That's what you're looking for. Pluto Scorpios, Pluto in the 8th house people. And those of you who have South Node and or North Node in Scorpio. Let me read that sentence again. Let me read that. That is so beautiful. They will learn how to participate in a committed, growth-oriented relationship in a non-dependent, non-compulsive way. In this way, they will naturally attract another who is self-sustaining by nature. They will transmute the karma of manipulation because the need for growth will not be linked to or dependent upon external situations or persons. These individuals will learn how to make consistently correct choices as to what to involve and not involve themselves with. In addition, all potential misuses of power and sexuality will be completely eliminated. Isn't that awesome? It is awesome. And this will happen. I can tell you that for a fact. Absolutely. Walking upon the road of self-reliance, they will dance to their own tune and not to someone else's. That is so beautiful. This evolutionary intent will allow these individuals to face the limitations implied in the totality of their natures and make the necessary adjustments to allow for additional growth. This intent will either be desired and consciously developed, or it will be enforced through the necessary karmic blows or shocks. And I know that's no fun, but at least in this life, we only grow when we go through those types of hard knocks, hard experiences, heartbreaking experiences, debilitating experiences. In the example of the individual discussed earlier who identified with the transformative power symbols of the occult and magic as a means to control forces larger than himself and thus to control others, the North Node was in Libra in the 9th house. The ruler, Venus, in Aquarius in the 12th house. Again, that was from the previous reading, previous video that I did, but I didn't read that specific because I just stayed with the general. So any of you that want the written part or the whole thing, I can send that to you through email. So just send me your email address and let me know that, and I will do that. Okay, let me see here. All the magic he tried to use on others turned back upon himself. This author's talking about, yes. So when you go and do something that is degenerative or to hurt another, you use your powers to hurt another, especially with this placement, it's going to backfire on yourself. Use it to control or to manipulate another. And that is part of what each of us were to learn who has these Pluto, Scorpio, South nodes, or Scorpio 8th house Plutos. The demons of the underworld haunted his consciousness and dreams, controlled and dictated his thoughts. He heard voices calling him to do this, that, and the other thing. He ended up a paranoid schizophrenic, locked away in a mental hospital. The reason that specific one is because that has to do with the 12th house. And he had his, just a second, his in the 9th house, the ruler Venus, Aquarius. Oh, he had his Venus in Aquarius in the 12th house. And so that has everything to do with the 12th house. And I'd have to, anyway, that's neither here nor there, but okay. Let me just see if I can fast. I'm not going to read all that because that's specific. And again, if you want that to read this specifically for yourself, I will send it to you. I'm going to go ahead and skip down back to this general. As the 8th house Pluto individual evolves into the 2nd house polarity, the transformation produces individuals who are self-motivated. They will be able to encourage and motivate the growth concerns of others with whom they come into contact in an utterly non-manipulative way, and will not allow for others to become dependent upon them. That is also very beautiful. They will encourage others to strip away all the layers of conditioning that have dictated their behavior and orientation to life. In so doing, they will encourage others to realize their own individual essence and to sustain and apply themselves on that basis. Their intrinsic capacity to identify the essence of whatever issues or areas of life that they focus upon can now be used to penetrate, discover, and solve the mysteries of life for the betterment of themselves and for others in general. That is so beautiful. That's where you're headed, all of you. Common characteristics of Pluto in the 8th house or in Scorpio include intensity on all levels, deep, radiating core of power, can be very fixed and stubborn, dislike of superficial relationships, can be vindictive when taken advantage of by others, strong likes and dislikes, magnetic, transforms those for better or worse, depending on where you're at, who are involved with them, black and white without shades of gray until the necessary transformation takes place, ability to motivate others, a why-oriented person, can be emotionally manipulative, cycles of emotional withdrawal, secretive. And famous people with Pluto in the 8th house or Scorpio: Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, Marlon Brando, Winston Churchill, Bob Dylan, and Leonardo da Vinci. Okay, well, that concludes that Scorpio, that Pluto reading. So those of you that, because you have two parts, you have a zodiac part and you have a house part. So those of you who would like their other half for me to read in a general reading, send me a comment, send me an email and let me know what it is, and I will absolutely do that. And if you have cross watchers who, hopefully this assists you in whoever you know that also has this, and so that you can understand them better and why they do the things they do and why they must go through the experiences that they are choosing to go through. And cross watchers, if I haven't done or read your Pluto in your house or sign yet, leave me a comment, send me an email, and I would love to do that. Okay? And I would love also, if you have anything else you would like me to read, any questions, I'm always interested in that. Just send me a note. Okay, until next time. Bye.